it's Victoria Lovelace here and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are good. I am very good. So in today's video I am gonna talk a little bit about my Asperger diagnosis. This is actually gonna be my first video about my Asperger diagnosis, and I want to do this video quite for a long time. But for me, sometimes it felt a little bit hard to talk about it. It feels like that I have to be a representative for so many people that have Asperger. But this video is just gonna be about me and how my life with Asperger has been, and how it has been for me to get a childhood Asperger diagnosis. So I got my Asperger diagnosis when I was 6 years old, which is quite early because that was actually in 1995, and that was very rare back then to get Asperger diagnosis in childhood, and especially when you're just 6 years old. And that was even before I started school, so I was just in preschool back then. But I don't remember so much of it, so I cannot tell you so much how was the testing and how I got the diagnosis, because I don't really remember that because I was a little bit too young for that. But another thing with Asperger is that it's so easily to diagnose on a boy and then a girl. That means usually the girls get the diagnosis later, and because usually boys are a little bit more outgoing, outspeaking, and telling more how they feel, and they are more communicating better usually than the girls because they are more outspoken. It was my mom that she saw, I think, that I was a little bit different from other kids in that age. I didn't have so much interest for to play for games with other people, and I didn't really interact with other kids, and I was mostly by myself. And I started to grow very specific interest back then, and I was very and another thing also, what I think my mom also went to find out that I wasn't like the other kids, that I was very obsessed with what clothes I was wearing. For example, I was very picky. I didn't want to wear anything that was tight around my waist. It couldn't be anything that was that I felt tight. So I couldn't, for example, I hated wearing jeans, for example, and I just wanted to wear skirts because I hated wearing pants, and I could make a big deal if I had to wear something that I find I didn't want, that was uncomfortable, and the whole morning day could be ruined. So that was one thing. And also my mom also was noticing that I was talking a little bit different from the kids in the same age. I wasn't late with start talking, but I have I guess a very specific tone in my voice too. And I also started with my very special interest, which was back then it was drawing. I didn't have anything else that really was interesting. That's what I want to do. That's what I was living for and everything. So, and another thing, I wasn't really interested in interacting with other kids in my same age. I also preferred to be by myself, and I also had very specific people in my preschool that I was very attached to. I have very for example, when the teacher in preschool wasn't there, my whole day in preschool could be ruined, and I didn't want to be there. So I would say that was kind of the main thing. My mom, because I guess she was worried how it would be then when I was starting school. So back then it was very rare that they tested for Asperger, because it was kind of a new thing, especially for girls. There was more boys that had the diagnosis, but for girls it was quite rare to get the diagnosis that early. And I remember when of course I was 6 years old, I didn't know how to my parents didn't told me that I had got the diagnosis, but the thing is that when I was around 9 years old, when they told me about, because I knew, I already started realizing back then I was different from the other people, and that I was, I didn't have that, I didn't see the world like other kids in that age, and I didn't want to do the same thing as kids in the other age. So when I started school, I had problems with like being in bigger groups with a lot of kids, and that was very hard for me. So I was still able to go like in the same like classroom, like in the same class as kids in the same age, but I had assistants, and I was usually had the opportunity to be in a smaller group. And what I remember back then was usually people with other diagnoses like ADHD that have a problem with concentrating, and sometimes, you know, they could be very like loud, you know, or like making noises, and yeah. So the thing is that was kind of hard for me. And back then, even when I was 9 years old and I got to know I have Asperger, and of course I wanted to know everything about that diagnosis, but it wasn't so much information, and even that was in the 90s, so there wasn't so much information about the diagnosis. So I remember my mom brought me a book that was kind of like, and I especially like in Swedish, it was very, very limited. It was a lot in English, but I didn't speak and understand English back then, so I was very limited to the books and Swedish sources that existed for like kids in that age that was explained. And so I was even trying to read like all adult books when I was like, you know, 9 years old, which sometimes was hard to understand. So I wanted to know everything, and for me, I feel like it was kind of like a release to know, like, okay, that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I have those interests, and why I'm not like interested in interacting with kids in my same age. I usually find it easier to hang around and interact with like older kids, because usually when I was thinking like kids, it was I didn't know what they were up to. I felt like older kids and, you know, like adults, it was easier because I felt like there was more like plan. It was more like a structure with them, that you were able to know, okay, they are gonna do this, and that's gonna happen this time, and they're gonna do that, and that's what's gonna happen. But with kids, it was hard because they were so like, you didn't know what they're gonna do, what's gonna plan, what's gonna be the next move. That was like kind of like the hardest thing for me, just because kids, you know, they can start, so they can, you know, they were playing a game, and then all of a sudden, no, we're gonna play the other game. And then it was hard for me to like, oh, but I was so focused in that game, and now they're gonna switch to the other game all of a sudden. Why did they do that now when I was so in to this game? And that's what I find like was very, very kind of frustrating. So and that also was like when I was in school, like I had some problem like with concentrating, and what I didn't really know back then, I actually got ADHD diagnosis when I was adult. But I was thinking I'm gonna talk about just diagnosis in another video, and that how have affecting me. So I have very problem with concentrating, but at the same time I had very easy to concentrate and be focused on things that had been interesting. And that's the same actually today, that I have very hard to focus. I have very hard to focus in boring tasks. I guess that's for everyone, but it is one of like the biggest struggles today. But then if we go back, I was 9 years old, I got the diagnosis, and my dream was I wanted to know other people. And that was the first thing I really wanted when I grow old and when I become a teenager. I really wanted to know more people that had the same diagnosis, but it was no one. I felt very, very alone, and especially that I was from, you know, a smaller town, northern Sweden. I didn't have like, it wasn't too much people, you know. I guess if I would have grown up like maybe in a bigger city, it would probably have been easier for me to like find people with Asperger, because I felt very, very alone with that. And I will say it took me all to I was like 15 or 16 years old until I finally met somebody with Asperger. And for me that was kind of, I feel very like real, felt very like, I felt very, very happy, and I felt like released, like it is more people that have Asperger. But then the thing is, started to come more and more people that got the diagnosis like later on when we were teenage, and there was people like I have knew before that they got the diagnosis, and I wish they would have the diagnosis even when I got it. So that was like, oh, that person always have Asperger, but I have know that I had it. And then you started to think like back, oh, what did that person do like when they were a kid that was similar like to me? So well, the thing is that so then I became older, I became an adult, and I felt like right now most like I'm struggling like with my Asperger, that is Asperger related, that I didn't think so much like as a kid, that I just saw the world from that perspective, like that, you know, I have always been like trusting people, you know, I have very hard to see people like real intentions, like that's right now I will say as an adult is the hardest thing. And another thing actually I will say as an adult that is actually, I will say for me, that's given me two different perspectives living in two countries as I have done. I have lived in Sweden and in the US, and I can say actually in the US that is more with Asperger. It's very, very common that you don't look people into the eyes when you are talking, and that's I don't know, I don't want to say that's a problem, but it's not a problem for me though, but it seems like other people have problem with that. So I guess there is a problem or no. But the thing is that we look into people's eyes when you are talking, and I don't really think about it that I'm not doing that, but a lot of people, and that was especially, and I remember when I was in LA and we were filming for Sweden's Next Top Model, and the jury, they always said, it didn't show so much actually on the TV, they kind of like cut that off, was that oh, your eye view is all over the place, like you are not looking into our eyes when we are talking to you. And I got to hear that a lot of times actually, and and then after a while I got like tired of them telling me that, so I explained, okay, I have Asperger, and the thing is that I don't really like to look people into the eyes when I'm talking to them, and they're like, oh, okay, I understand. But I also like seeing that more since I moved to LA and in the US, that there seems to be more important that you look people into the eyes when you're talking than comparing to Sweden, because I also hear that in school sometimes when we have speech classes in school that and I always like explain why I haven't done that, which I have never had to do here in Sweden. So that's kind of like an interesting thing, actually didn't know. So yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, but Asperger also have the good things, and I think Asperger have good side effects, and that's what I also want to talk about. And today, I don't know if I will say like have it undone, okay? I will wake up the next morning and be Victoria without Asperger. I don't know if I want to do that, because Asperger for me is so deep inside of me. I mean, I have had that my whole life and I don't know anything else. But that's because, of course, I got the diagnosis very early in my childhood. And I say the positive thing with Asperger for me is actually I can be very focused on things I am very interesting, so which make it easier for me to decide, like, now I want to do this and I'm gonna be focused on that because this is gonna be fun. And that's, for example, when I have, like, when it's something I have very interesting right now, I'm very focused in YouTube and create content for YouTube, and now I'm focusing like 100% on that. And then also my makeup brand Lovelace Cosmetics, and for me it's making it very easy to actually focus on that, and then I can't be interrupted or anything when I'm doing that. But at the same time, if there's something, as I was saying, that it's not that it's boring task, and then it's hard. So, but the thing is that and I think actually that helped me, like with my businesses and being very, very dedicated to what you love. And for me, as Asperger, I really hope that it's really gonna help me to be able to work full time with things I really, really, really love. So another thing which I think have affecting me with getting my diagnosis later is that I have seen, you know, especially when you read a lot about your diagnosis, that you think you're gonna be like this for life, and there's nothing you can improve or like work with yourself to be better. And I think if I would had got the diagnosis as an adult, I think I would have known, like, since before, okay, I have been able, I would probably have tried more maybe to improve myself with those limitations I have, for example. That I would try to work a little bit more with myself, for example, which means that as a kid, when you get it as a kid, your Asperger is like your identity. You like putting yourself into the Asperger identity. I think as an adult you can more, like, I think, control that, because you get like another point of view. You understand like the world like better, you understand the context better, so you don't put yourself into the name Asperger. I have Asperger, I'm gonna be this for my whole life, and there's no way I'm gonna be able to work with myself to improve some things. And I think if I would have got as an adult, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have known what Asperger was maybe, and I didn't know, like, I would think, okay, the only way to do, I have to improve myself, I have to work with myself to improve or to be better on those things, which I think maybe a little people that had got the diagnosis like late in life maybe would be better, because they probably would have had like, they probably have struggled a lot like in school, but they have to more adapt, like you have to adapt to like I would say I call it like the normal world, or what is expected from you as a human. Why, as if you have the diagnosis as a child, that means the world have already, like school, like your, like the school, for example, has been adapted already for you. And I think that's right now you are, like, when you had the diagnosis as a kid, I think you are expecting more that the world will be more adapted to you than if you get the diagnosis as an adult, that you already know, okay, the world haven't been adapted to you. But now I maybe got the answer to my question, why I'm thinking like this, why I always struggle with this, and why I am different from other people. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did so, I will be happy if you can give it a thumbs up and drop a comment in the comment section, and give me a subscribe to my channel. And when you subscribe, you should hit the bell button so you get notification every time I'm posting a new video. And so hope you see you guys in the next video.